Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
The future segment planned for right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for our Conservative Future segment, Mr. Patrick Deakins is on the line. Patrick, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I'm glad, and I know we've met before. You've actually been on the program before. I think the last time that you were on, you stopped by while we were at a Ted Cruz event together. That was back during the primaries.
Absolutely. He had spoke down at Van Buren High School.
Yeah, that's
during
right.
the Republican primaries, and we got to meet there. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was a really cool event. Just a lot of good conservative ideas were exchanged at that event. So, Patrick, this is our Young Conservative Future segment. And so, first of all, how old are you, Patrick?
I am 30 years old.
30 years old. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, you consider yourself a conservative, and so let me just ask you, how did you get those views? Because a lot of times, younger individuals don't tend to be, conservative. So how were you raised, or did that have anything to do with it?
Oh, absolutely. I think it started, I'm originally from rural Oklahoma, and I think it was just the atmosphere I was raised in, the people I was raised around. I had a grandfather who owned a drive-in diner in the little town I grew up in. He raised 5 kids off that. So, that started out with some history in my family of knowing that just working hard, you can obtain some rewards and take care of your family, individual responsibility, that type of thing. And then just the little town I grew up in, everybody was just hard workers. It was farmers and community people that, you're raised around that. And I think it instilled in me a lot of what I would call individual responsibility and that type of thing, to pursue hard work. And if you do work hard, you'll get rewarded. So I think that's where all that taste finally came in. And then, of course, I was raised with a Christian worldview, so a lot of that, too, plays into a lot of the policies that, I like to support and things like that, to where, we all serve a higher power and a bigger purpose than ourselves. And so, it's not all just about the moment or the individual level. There's bigger and better things for everyone there.
We're talking with Patrick Deakins in our Conservative Future segment. So, Patrick, where do you live in the state?
I live in Sonora, which is a little community just east of Springdale, Arkansas. So people are familiar with that area. When you drive out east of Springdale, you get out to what we refer to as the 412 Bridge over Beaver Lake, and I live just north of that, out in that little community.
So I think we've got recent political history that would certainly support the concept that the word or the phrase conservative or Republican or conservative Republican, it can mean a lot to different people. So what does it mean to you?
Well, to me, it's we all need to pursue government in its most limited form, because I think government always has the potential to grow. And when I was thinking about this morning, I started thinking about, not to get too nerdy, but is it Newton's first law that says an object will continue in motion until acted upon? And that's the way I kind of feel about government. Government will grow and grow and grow unless acted upon and reined in by the people. The issue with that is then it has the possibility to have a lot of corruption and waste in government, and we see that at all levels. So to me, to be conservative, I want government in its most limited form, doing its most basic responsibilities, and primarily in the best world, government would govern at the levels closest to the people the most, so that they would be most accountable to the people. And another thing, when I say people, I mean the individual citizens, the voters.
Yeah, that's really good. I would agree with that. So let me ask you this. Do you follow Arkansas politics at all, and what goes on here locally?
I absolutely follow Arkansas politics, and I'm the first vice chairman of the Washington County Republican Committee currently, and have served in that capacity since January. So it has been a real crash course of learning and getting to know all the intricacies of Arkansas politics so far.
Wow. Okay. So have you enjoyed it? You consider that so far your service on that committee a positive experience?
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. It helps me be involved. It helps me to be in the know, and it gives me an opportunity to serve, the constituents in our county in hopefully a positive way.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You say you follow Arkansas politics. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Republican Party right now? And you can, take as long as you want. I've got my fear, the branding of the Republican Party, very popular campaign rhetoric, very popular campaign messages. People are electing Republicans in droves here in the state, but then the policies that they're enacting are not Republican policies in many cases. They can't be found in the Republican Party platform. They're, raising taxes, that sort of thing, is spending. How do you save the image of a really popular platform? But some of the leadership, they seem to keep pushing the envelope. What are your thoughts on the state of Arkansas politics?
Well, unfortunately, while the Republican Party, like you're saying, has seen a lot of success in races, and it's very well represented in leadership, I don't believe that the citizens are getting what they were sold or what they voted for. And so, there's a lot of varying shades of red in the Republican Party in Arkansas, and unfortunately, a lot of them are closer to blue. And just for comedy's sake, one time a wise person said to me when I first started getting involved, he said, "Where do you think all the Clinton Democrats are in Arkansas?" And, I was just kind of dumbfounded. I just sat there and he said, "They're in the Republican Party." Yeah. And so I think that was an interesting observation by someone. And what I call on everybody to do is you have to get involved and become knowledgeable. And I understand that's very difficult for the day in and day out Arkansans out there who go to work every day and try to support their families to also have to follow up and hold their legislators and their leaders accountable. But that's exactly what we've got to do, and make sure that when they get to Little Rock, they are representing those values that you voted for. And if not, then maybe it's time to try to put somebody else in that position. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it seems like politics is in really hard play down in Little Rock, especially. And when I say politics, I just mean mostly the gamesmanship of governing. You really have to watch a lot of what goes on down there, and I think you have to go. You have to scratch the surface beneath that very top surface of what you might read in the newspapers or something like that, and try to get involved a little bit lower. Yeah. And try to, I guess, screen out some of the smoke, and try to get down to the truth. Yeah,
what's interesting, I've had, people on the program, and they say, that a lot of the legislators down in Little Rock, we call it the Marble Palace, they were kind of afraid to run legislation that their constituents may agree with because they had to check with the governor first. And so, I kind of, the upsetting part to me is we have a moderate, generally speaking, we have a moderate governor at best, and yet we have people that I believe are much more focused on limited government, want lower taxes, lower regulations, want to keep more of their own money that they're working for. And yet, we have a lot of people that are kind of bowing down to the power structure that's in Little Rock that starts in the executive branch. Have you noticed that at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you hear stories about it all the time about legislators who had good conservative legislation, and some of them have even had that in the form of a bill to run and have not ran it. I mean, that bill existed. It was written, and have decided to pull it or not run it at all. And once again, speaking as a citizen, we have to hold those legislators accountable if they represent us in spite of the governor. And, I will comment a little bit too. It's been kind of funny over the last few weeks since the legislative session has come out that, they've come up with these various groups have come up with these scorecards. And it's just really driven these legislators crazy if they didn't perform well on these certain scorecards, and I find that very, very interesting. And some of the attacks on these scorecards I find hilarious too. Because in my opinion, anybody could have a scorecard. Paul Harrell could have a scorecard. Patrick Deakins could have a scorecard. Anybody can have their scorecard. You know, it's not one set of rubric. I mean, it's not the ingredients in that are not set. And so, you know, find out the groups that you're interested in and what support your policies. And if they have a scorecard, look at it and hold your legislators accountable to what they said they were going to do and how they're actually voting. And it's sad to see if that's true that the governor, you know, and like you're saying, it's got to be, because we hear these stories that he's got such a stranglehold on these legislators. That's really kind of killing the way that government's supposed to work down there and the balance of powers that's down in Little Rock.
Do you think primaries are a healthy thing for the Republican Party?
Absolutely. But, you know, good candidates have to run. And I wish the process was more open, because a lot of times what we see is that incumbent candidates have so many more resources in terms of monies that they've received from anyone, including special interest groups. And also, you know, what concerns me really too is that lately we've seen it in the last primary where other candidates, especially the governor, have gotten involved in those races pretty heavily. And I don't think that's very healthy either. And it gets back to, once again, people need to educate themselves on their candidates and see who's best for them.
Yeah, I think you're right. Patrick Deakins, appreciate you coming on, sir. I'd love to have you on again, and we can talk more about Arkansas politics, because I know you're certainly keeping up with things, and I certainly appreciate you coming on for our Conservative Future segment on Johnny Cash Friday, no less.
All great, Paul. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be on Johnny Cash Friday. Anytime.
All righty, sir. Well, we will do it again soon, okay? Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right, be safe. Folks, that is our Conservative Future segment. If you have a young conservative that wants to be on the program, they're welcome to contact us, and I'd love to talk to them. You can text me, 870-275-9799, and we will be back in just a moment.